Hello students, in this video we'll talk about the control and coordination. Let us first understand what is the need of control and coordination. In animals, control over life processes is provided by the nervous system. It also requires coordination between various systems in order to maintain homeostasis in multicellular organisms. In multicellular organisms, different cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems are present. In order to have coordination between the working of these organs and organ systems, the nervous system or the system for control and coordination is needed. How control and coordination occurs in plants and animals? Let's see. In plants, it is done by sending chemical signals and carrying out movements such as phototropic, chemotropic, and thigmotactic movements. Phototropic movement, we can easily see that the plants move in the direction of, or they show the growth in the direction of light source. In chemotropic movement, you can see the plants show the growth of their roots towards the desirable minerals, and they show the movement in opposite direction of harmful chemicals. In thigmotactic movement, the plants show sensitivity to touch. In animals, the control and coordination is achieved by both electrical and chemical signals. In lower animals, only nervous system is present. In higher animals, nervous system which sends electrical signals and endocrine system which sends chemical signals is also present. Endocrine system is concerned with the hormones. Then we will see the nervous system in primitive animals like Hydra. Hydra belongs to the phylum Cnidaria. It has diffused nervous system. It is a most primitive kind of nervous system, but Hydra is the first animal or it is the animal belonging to the group which shows first true simple nervous system, which consists of sensory cells and nerve cells or neurons along with their fibers. If you will see, the body of Hydra shows a network like structure which is called as a nerve net. How is this nerve net formed? The nerve cells which are scattered throughout the body are interconnected with each other by synapses. Now, the junction between two nerves is called as synapse, and they form a net like structure, and this is called as the nerve net. There are two nerve nets present in mesoglia. Mesoglia means the middle jelly-like layer between ectoderm and endoderm. One nerve net is present towards epidermis or the outer body surface of Hydra, and one is present towards the gastrodermis or the wall of the cavity. You all know that the cavity in Hydra is called as the gastrovascular cavity. The wall of this cavity or gastrodermis also shows a nerve net. Sensory cells are scattered throughout the body wall, tentacles, and in Hydra the sense organs are lacking. Like we have eyes, nose, ears, Hydra doesn't have any sense organs. Neurons have fibers, but there are no sensory and motor neurons. We will learn about these types of neurons when we are going to study the nervous system in advanced organisms. Sensory neurons carry the impulse from sense organ to brain or nervous system, central nervous system, and motor neurons carry the impulse from central nervous system to effector organ. Nerve impulses have no polarity or direction. So, anywhere the excitation can start and anywhere it can spread. Now Hydra shows different movements while catching its prey, movement of tentacle, movement of the entire body. Now in planaria or flatworm, you can see a little bit of advancement in the nervous system. It is primitive animal with a central nervous system which is located on the ventral side of body. Ventral side is towards the mouth, dorsal side is towards the back. Central nervous system consists of cerebral or cephalic ganglia appearing like an inverted U-shaped brain. Now, this region is called as the cephalic region. Cephalos means head. In cephalic region, you can see inverted U-shaped brain. This is called as cerebral or cephalic ganglion. Now, from each 9 branches arise. From each ganglion, there you can see 9 branches arising towards the outer side, and from this towards the ventral side, you can see a pair of ventral nerve cords or long nerve cords arising. 2 long threads you can see, these are called as the ventral nerve cords, which are in communication with each others due to the commissures. You can see the connections in between, connecting the 2 nerve cords, these are called as the commissures, and it gives the nervous system a ladder-like appearance. Peripheral nerve plexus arise. Now here you can see the small branches going outwards from the ventral nerve cord. These peripheral nerve plexus, these arise laterally from ventral nerve cord. These include sensory cells arranged in lateral cords. Now here you can see a pair of photosensory structures or eye spots. Now this is surely an advanced character than Hydra. Hydra doesn't have any receptor organs, but here in planaria you can see eye spots or photosensory structures which are located on the dorsal side of the brain or cephalic ganglion. And single sensory cells are scattered in the body. This is how we can describe the nervous system in planaria. Then we go to the neural tissue. There are 2 types of cells in neural tissue. One is neurons and second is neuroglia or glial cells. Neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system, and neuroglia or glial cells are the supporting structures or supporting cells. What is a nerve? It is bundle of axons. Now we will understand axon once we understand the structure of a neuron. But for now, understand a nerve is bundle of axons outside the central nervous system. What is the central nervous system? It is composed of brain and spinal cord. Anything out of it is the peripheral nervous system or the nerves arising from the brain and spinal cord are included in peripheral nervous system. Bundle of axons inside the central nervous system are called as tract. The ones outside are called as nerves, and the ones which are inside central nervous system are called as tract. Now, this is how a nerve is organized. You can see covering of a nerve or bundle of axon is called as neurolemma. Endoneurium. Now here you can see endoneurium. Endoneurium is the connective tissue covering around nerve fasciculi. Nerve come together to form a small group, and that is called as nerve fasciculi. Then perineurium is the connective tissue covering around few nerve fasciculi and endoneurium. Now you can see many nerve fasciculi which are enveloped by perineurium. Then epineurium is the covering around a large bundle of nerve. This outermost covering you can see is called as the epineurium. Then we will understand neuron structure here. Neuron is a structural and functional unit of nervous system. Neurons are classified depending upon presence of myelin sheath or absence into myelinated and non-myelinated neurons. Now here you will see a neuron has cell body, axon and the telodendrons. Now here the axon of a neuron is covered by a sheath called as myelin sheath. Here the axon is not covered by the myelin sheath. So The upper one, which has myelin sheath, is called as a myelinated neuron. The lower one, which doesn't have a myelin sheath, is called as a non-myelinated neuron. Now, parts of multipolar neuron are cyton or cell body, dendron, and axon. Cyton or cell body has a distinct central nucleus with nucleolus. Cytoplasm contains neurofibrils and a granular structure called as Nissel's granules, and there are other cell organelles. From the cyton, conical projections arise which are called as dendrons. These projections divide into smaller fibers called as dendrites. Now, here you can see a long process. It is called as axon. It is single long, usually unbranched process arising from cyton at the axon hillock. This is the region called as axon hillock. From this, here the axon arises. Terminally, it gives branches. Now you can see branches. These are called as telodendrons, and sometimes there are lateral branches to axon called as collaterals. So these are the three structures of neuron. Now, what are the functions of Nissl granules? These are actually riboprotein components, ribosome and protein components playing important role in synthesis of enzymes required for formation of neurotransmitter. Now, what is a neurotransmitter? It is a chemical substance released by one neuron to pass the signal to the second neuron. Then there are also neurofibrils which are present in the cyton, which play important role in transmission of nerve impulse. Dendrons, or the conical projections to the cyton, transmit message towards cyton, and axons carry message away from cyton. Then neuroglial cells, or the supporting cells. What do? They are the supporting cells of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. These are greater in number than neurons. These are derived from ectoderms. Now here you can see the different neuroglial cells. 4 of these are located in the central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, and these 2 are located in the peripheral nervous system, which are the nerves arising from brain and spinal cord. Now, their different functions are there. Oligodendrocytes have few branches. They form myelin sheath around central axons, which form the matter of central nervous system. Now, these are actually the oligodendrocytes are responsible for secretion of myelin sheath. Here you can see these ependymal cells are present in the ventricles, lining the ventricles of brain. Our brain is not a solid structure. It has different cavities or the empty spaces which are lined by the single layer of ependymal cells, which are responsible for secretion and circulation of cerebrospinal fluids. Now, here you can see the star-shaped astrocytes, which are also performing different functions, they maintain blood-brain barrier. They are responsible for various secretions. The 4th type is microglia. Now, even in brain or the cerebrospinal fluid, the liquid present around brain, there can be different pathogens that attack the brain tissue. These microglia are the macrophages, which perform the function of immunity or defense against the pathogens. They engulf the pathogens, dead cells, etc. at the site of injury. Now, in peripheral nervous system, you can see these glial cells, satellite cells. These are supportive cells for neuron, and Schwann cells, they form the covering or myelin sheath around the nerves of peripheral nervous system. Now, there are different properties of nerve fibers, which are those excitability or irritability due to polarized membrane. Now, if you see the membrane, cell membrane of neurons, it has polarity. It has positive charge on the surface and towards inside it is negative. Due to this, these neurons have ability to perceive stimulus and enter into a state of activity. Our environment is changing constantly. You can see there are different activities going on, different changes are going on in the environment which are sensed by the neurons. Neurons not only can perceive or receive the stimulus, they also can conduct it or transmit it. Then stimulus, what is it? It is detectable physical, chemical, electrical change in the external or internal environment which brings about excitation in a nerve, muscle, organ or organism. Any sweet smell that you get, any bad odor, temperature changes, all these are stimuli that you receive in your day-to-day life. Minimum intensity stimulus is called as threshold stimulus, which in order to be effective, the stimulus must have a minimum intensity which is called as threshold stimulus. Subliminal is weak stimulus, it has no effect. Very faint smell or fragrance which is not very strong is not many a times detected by our nose. Supraliminal or very strong stimulus will produce same degree of impulse as threshold stimulus. Then there is this next effect, very interesting. A single weak stimulus will now have no effect, but many such weak stimuli, when are given in quick rapid succession, they may produce an impulse due to addition or summation of stimuli. Then the next is all or none law. Either the nerve will conduct the impulse along its entire length or will not conduct the impulse at all. Halfway it is conducting and then not, this will not happen. The impulse will be conducted throughout the length of the nerve. This is the all or none law. In case of subliminal or weak stimulus, if the stimulus or the impulse will not be conducted at all. Refractory period, it is a time interval about in milliseconds during which a nerve fails to respond to a second stimulus, however strong it is. Between two stimuli, there is a small period which goes where the nerve is not responsive. Then synaptic delay, 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds are required to cross a synapse. Synapse is actually the gap between two nerves. Impulse, when it is passing from one nerve to the other, it is passing through synapse also. It takes 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds, which is called as synaptic delay. Synaptic fatigue. Now, when one neuron is giving signal to the next neuron, it is releasing the chemical neurotransmitter. Sometimes the neurotransmitter is exhausted. That is why the impulse transmission is temporarily stopped. So that is called as synaptic fatigue. Now, last property is velocity. The rate of transmission of impulse is higher in long and thick nerves. It is higher in homeotherms like warm-blooded animals like mammals, human beings. Lower in poikilotherms, cold-blooded animals, frogs, reptiles, etc. It is higher in voluntary fibers. Voluntary means the nerves which are under control of our brain or our will, and autonomic or involuntary nerves which are not under our control. It is faster in medulated nerves and slower in non-medulated nerves. Medulated means when there is the covering of myelin sheath around axon, and non-medulated is there is no myelin sheath covering around axon. Thank you. If there are any questions, queries, you can contact me. Thank you.